Recording in progress.
Alright. So the purpose of tonight's session is actually to review articles 1 to 6. Many of us actually have been here since the start, so that's good. But we can actually discuss a bit more, and knowing how our previous sessions were, we can anticipate perhaps some rigorous and also joyful discussions. So let me just share screen. Let's make sure that. Right, so if we look at the articles, again, I'm just going to zip through them. The first thing that we did was the scriptures. So we said scriptures, God's revelation, or no commandments. Then we looked into Article 2, which is surprisingly quite lengthy. We have God, and then here in the divide, talk about God as a Trinity. So we have God the Father, and so that's Article 2a, God the Father. Then we have Article 2b, God the Son. Then Article 2c, God the Holy Spirit. Then we went on to Article 3, which talks about man. Here we have man is made in his own image. It talks about various things. It's a very good summary, as I said, it's a very good summary of what we believe. It's about male and female, so gender is really inside. So I'm going to read from here. We talk about innocence, about sin, free choice, temptation, under condemnation. And that's about the grace of God. In many ways, if you just remove one aspect of it, the way your theology or your understanding about the faith is just slightly deficient. So, for example, if you only talk about condemnation, but you don't talk about grace of God, it is actually deficient. You are missing a vital part of why it means to be a Christian. So then, so all these things are good. Then you have Article 4, salvation. You have regeneration, justification, sanctification, glorification. Again, all big words, but it's not words that is meant to make people sound smarter than others, but it's actually words like Trinity, where you're supposed to be encouraged that these things describe what God has done. Justification, sanctification, glorification. All these things are wonderful things that God has done, is doing, and will accomplish in our lives. So again, something to celebrate. As Paul says, something to say amen, hallelujah. Then Article 5, and not so long ago, we have God's purpose of grace, where we exchange rigorously on the topic of election, and so that we don't really have a good definition of election from this article itself, but it basically means choice. Okay, so then we discuss a bit, and perhaps tonight we may want to circle back and discuss this further, but let's see, we have an idea of what to do for tonight. Then last week we talked about the church. Okay, Article 6, the church. So the biggest item over here is obviously the woman pastor thing. Okay, so that one was reached to a conclusion, and we may want to discuss further, since again this is the review session. So that is just a very quick quiz. So if we want to just capture all of that, we can say that Article 1 is 1 to 2A, 2B, 2C, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's just really capture it. Then we have Article 1, scripture. Then God the Father, God the Jesus the Son, and then the Holy Spirit. So that's the Trinity. Then 3, remember the church, purpose of grace, man, and 4th is salvation. Right. So before I carry on, I'll open up to the floor. Any particular topic or question or about this entire articles that anybody want to ask? Now, let me do what I want to do, and then we'll see where we can go from there. One of the things that I do with the students in 13 is that I do something called risk assessment. So what we do then is that we say, and I think it's a familiar thing for many of us online and also maybe in this room, but we ask about the impact of the risk. impact of risk. And they talk about likelihood of the risk happening. The likelihood means that whether it's possible. Okay, so this one impact is the cost of something, how bad is it not? So what I'm doing over here is, let us see whether, let's consider to narrow down our conversation, because we can talk about a lot of these things in many ways now. Let's talk about what are the false teachings, or some, not even false teaching is a very strong word. Let's talk about some things that can actually cause stress within the PBC family itself. And then we try to go and identify things that perhaps has high impact and high likelihood. And perhaps over here we can talk about it so that we can see what we can do to avoid or to deal with it. So that we don't spend too much time doing things that has very little impact or very little chance of happening. So just to, again, this exercise is just simply to narrow it down. So for example, one of the things that PBC has experienced before is that we actually have people who have a Unitarian beliefs. So basically they come in and they say that there is no Trinity. And in one case, one that some of us are familiar with, the person actually progressed very high. He was even a worship leader and actually worshipped in a national level event. And it was only later on that we realized that he actually held Unitarian beliefs. He does not believe in the Trinity. Actually, maybe I need to ask Zach at this point. Did he come to Unitarian belief later on, or did he always have Unitarian belief? He always had. So he always had Unitarian beliefs, and then suddenly we discovered that he doesn't actually believe that God the Father, Jesus the Son, and Holy Spirit, they're all three divine, and they're all 3% of the one God. So that goes to show again that it can be a shocking thing to discover that one person that you have been praising, singing, worshipping with actually holds beliefs that is totally different from yours. So we can say that what is the impact of this? I mean, what would happen if someone, if these beliefs was to come to so Baptist Church? And I would say it's a very high impact. I mean, if this type of teaching starts being taught in the pulpit, being expressed within the worship team, I think it is very divergent, very different from anything that we teach actually. But the likelihood of it happening is very low. Because at this point in time, okay, we talk about present time, I don't know anybody who actually has this belief within the church. And so there's no point for us to talk about this actually. There's no point talking about, let's have another training session, let's have some seminars, let's have a workshop or away day or retreat dealing with Unitarian beliefs, because it's not something that's going to happen. All right?
It's interesting that you mentioned this Unitarian beliefs. In the sense that the likelihood in the moment we know.
Yeah.
Because we actually may not have a conversation, with somebody on a one-on-one basis about this. Sometimes because the opportunity does not present itself or would not create the opportunity. Because one of the things, like for example, in class 101, it's coming to PBC church membership, was that we talk about this Trinity, and there's a lot of conversation in that setting. Went through the Miri and all those things. So there's no particular conversation, or very little conversation, because we assume that anyone who comes in, they believe in the Trinity, or even a new believer comes in, we automatically assume that
they will accept this.
Yeah, but then we didn't go through it with them until class 101.
One area is strategy within the risk assessment, and this one will be class 101. Where it would come up so that conversations about this will come up, and then therefore we can address and stop this kind of things from spreading, because we should not be allowing people to have different beliefs. At least, I'm not sure. I mean, let's talk about this. Can a person with Unitarian beliefs be a member of Piasau Baptist Church? Okay, I'm not saying that we don't allow them to come to the church. There's a difference between somebody who comes to the church, sits in the pews, worship together with us, prays along with us, and so on. But there's something different between that and a member, right? And a member, there's a difference between member and a teaching position as well. So there are, I think, three ways of thinking about it. So if someone has a Unitarian beliefs, definitely welcome to come to church. No, actually, there is nobody within the whole world that is not allowed to come to church. Prostitute and so on. It's a question whether can he be a member?
That's why class 101 talks about what we do, and this is the whole thing. At the end of the day, they have to wrestle with it, and they have to believe in it, to follow it, to accept it.
They cannot say that I don't believe it. They may say that I don't understand it, but I don't see a problem with it. Because we will not say that everybody must have a very clear understanding of the Trinity, but they should not have a very strong opinion on the Unitarian as the correct teaching. That sort of thing. There's something wrong with your teaching, with your beliefs and so on, because it creates a lot of problems in the church. All right. There's one, and again, let's just go through, and then we can throw in some more, just so that we are aware of the current situation. The purpose I'm doing this is just not to exercise, just for a simple exercise. It's just to see where is our church at with regards to the Article 1 to 6. That's the whole purpose, and then to see whether are we making a big deal about it. So, for example, God the Father, there's other one which is omniscience, which is that whether God actually knows the future or not. All right. So that one. There is actually, so the issue over here is that some believe that God doesn't actually know the future decisions of free creatures, meaning that God knows the future as far as He can know. Everything that, but whether or not someone is safe or not is something that God may not know for sure. So there is one teaching that's like that. And that is something that is can be happening. The impact of such a teaching is at the moment arguably low to high, because some will say that it has no impact because it doesn't really matter whether God knows the future or not. He is still the same God that we worship. Whereas there is another opinion that says that it is of a high impact because it talks about who God is. Right? The likelihood of this creating a problem within the church is actually low. Reason why is because it's stated in the BFM. And so it's stated very clearly in the Baptist Faith and Message that including all decisions. So basically it's a addressed matter. If it was not addressed, then maybe it's something that people would want to bring up and raise up and discuss actually what does the church actually believe in. But in this case, the Baptist Faith Message actually, this was the reason why the Baptist Faith Message was worded in this sense. So it says over here, including the future decisions of these free creatures. That was actually added on to address that particular problem. Right? So don't have to go into it in detail. Then we have another problem or risk, which is election, which is the predestination, all the things that some of us love and some of us hate. So this is something that has been going on for a very, very long time, a few hundred years. Basically says that does God actually choose certain people? Does God choose first before we choose Him? Something along those lines. So the impact within the church itself in PBC, the way I see it, and again we can discuss, anyone will discuss. Actually, it's I would say low to medium. The reason why that this one will not cause a fissure is because the way I see, the one who is very convicted about this have all, as far as I know, because there's no voices coming up, basically are happy with status quo. Nobody is trying to raise up and push for a particular position, whether yes or no. So we are everybody within the church who has a strong opinion about this is basically happy with letting it be as it is now. That is the way I see. So therefore, the likelihood of anything happening from here, maybe low to medium, no. Yeah.
When you put the impact of risk, this one is impact if the dispute that you can split the church.
Yeah, dispute and split the church. Yeah. Of course, at least so disruptive that basically the whole ministry of the church is just consumed, just trying to handle this particular thing. So, for example, charismatic, the time would be one of those high risk, but it actually can split the church.
If we're basing it on the current member thinking, I guess it's more to medium. But if we come across to the more hyper ones, like the hard determinists, the ones that say that everything has been predestined from start to end. What's the other? Oh, fatalist. The fatalist is the one that say that everything is determined. You're elected or not elected, one can do it high, isn't it?
Over in PBC at this point in time now is the only possibility is you have newcomers who. The thing also with this kind of thing is that people who come in, right, if they have a strong opinion about this, they probably leave before they want to do anything. They don't want to be a member. The Calvinist people, they don't want to be a member of this church. Those the ones that mention the hyper because the preaching just actually don't want. Actually, also strong position. So if it sounds very confusing, basically it means that the PBC at this point in time is willing to live with two very two different ways of it's not always complicated. All right, that's a bit annoying, but I mean the internet connection is connected. So, oh, right, I think Pastor Lim, you were saying something about,
Still not quite stable. A lot of lagging.
I think it's the rain, is it? Could be the rain.
It used to stop.
The switch off as well. Oh, now solving technical issues. You are always on, right? That means that when you notice that I was not coming in,
Only at the election topic, suddenly keeps cutting.
all right, it's not meant to be.
Yeah, so that discussion was completely avoided.
Yeah. We should not be talking about that. Divine interruption.
The audio is okay, but your video is not. How they?
Maybe this thing that time. Okay, so yeah, hopefully everybody is on track. So we're talking about election coming back. So, and then we are looking. Oh, sorry. Shares. Is that one now? So, coming back to a proposition from Pastor Lim.
Maybe it's to address the two extremes to avoid the hyper on both sides. We could actually set a decision whereby we have considered both and then willing to steer the path.
Okay, so that's one way. Consider both and go with them. All right. So perhaps stating that position clearly could actually help those who are in one or the other. So perhaps that might be helpful. Then that's a possibility. Now the last one, which I see, but maybe got others that you want to fill up, is actually women pastors. Now the thing is that I think the likelihood of this having an impact is high. I think that I can just see it happening very easily, which is that even the position that we have, which is the elders are male, I can see it then slowly, as we were talking about it last week, it slowly will shift and say why elder cannot be women.
Because the moment you have women pastors, because by our definition, elders, bishops, presbyterians, as well as
Overseers.
overseers and pastors, they are equal to one.
Just to give a bit of background, which I did not give because I didn't think it was relevant. Actually, this was this statement, Article 6 of the Church. This particular word was modified in the Southern Baptist Convention for 2023. And what happened was that previously it was just like that. So it was just saying that two officers, pastor and deacon. Then there is a reason why they put like this. Because people were saying that actually there's a division of elder and pastor, and elder is like this and pastor is like this. So they were trying to divide it and allow genders to be differentiated in the ways of that. And if I'm not mistaken, that's what happened. So they basically just put this one line so that they don't allow people to move around. To say that actually it's very clear that pastor, elder, overseer is limited to them. So, as I said, this is a hot issue in many churches. It's actually a resolved issue in many churches as well. Methodist, SIB, and Anglican, I think they basically have no issue with this one. And maybe PBC may want to see it as a non-issue as well. But just that the current position that we have may get shifted again.
So you feel that the impact of grace will be high?
Impact can be low. I don't know. Actually, this one it's a subjective thing. I'm not sure whether it will split the church. I don't think so. But the likelihood of it coming up is very high. And then maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe this is an area that we may want to spend more time on actually, women pastors, which is basically what you were talking about last week. Or we just accept that we just go along with everybody else. That's also another way. But at this point in time, are we familiar with how to explain the passages? So again, those are passages that I think a lot of us somehow are not comfortable expounding actually. A woman is to learn quietly with full submission. I do not allow a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. Instead, she is to remain quiet. Maybe it's the reason why one person is not here today.
I see it as the time of Paul, because most women are not educated. Whereas now, women are highly educated. They are speaking up with this kind of authority.
The problem with that teaching or that interpretation is this line. Because the reason over here is not saying that she's not schooled, for her role is to be at home. Because if the role changed, or if she had more education, then perhaps it would be different now. And I'm proceeding gently over here, because I don't want to step on women who may feel differently and then put again some sense of guilt, because that I don't think is what the Bible or God really desires. But if I can carry on, the reason it seems to me from here is that she is to remain quiet because Adam was formed first than Eve, which means that it is referring to the reason is coming in from Genesis.
Authority, yes. I think that's why I don't agree with women pastor or the church being run by women. It should, if they have a qualified man, it should be run by a man, because Adam was formed first. Adam was the head of the family. So the head of the church should be Adam. And woman, Eve, can speak, but no authority, kind of no authority over the man.
And actually, your position is what the complementarian or those who favor male headship would agree with. The interpretation for this is not saying that women cannot teach Sunday school. Nobody actually argues that way, or cannot teach in the home, or cannot teach at all. The way that they would argue is saying that teach in this case is talking about teaching with authority. So that is the understanding.
Because that unfortunately the complementarian idea, which I kind of lean into, I use it, but lean into a bit more, right? But you got into that extreme whereby you talk about, for example, the Southern Baptist have more.
Yeah.
And I think teacher, the author, yet was I thought was what we rejected.
For context, Bethel was a teacher. She was a woman, and then she was teaching, and they were Christian. There were churches who responded very poorly to her having a teaching position, and they became very nasty actually. Many pastors, many Christians were very nasty, which actually did not do anything good for the discussion. But let's say we can agree that what Beth Moore in this case, or any woman teacher, how she was treated was wrong. If we can accept that, then the question remains that should she be given a preaching or authorial position? I'm picking this for tonight's discussion simply because I think it is very relevant. If we wish to pick another topic, we can. Nor am I saying that this is preaching. Right now, I'm not preaching. I'm just discussing on it. And because it's something easy to talk. Everybody's opinion about this one. You talk about everything else, omniscience, Unitarian, and be like, you ask people to have an opinion, they say, I listen to you, no? Women pastors, every single person has an opinion.
I love to hear from the ladies actually.
Perhaps, Ken? Sister Annie? Well, maybe I put it this way. I mean, women pastors, do you think women pastors, can pastors be women?
If there is no choice.
Okay, so if there is no choice, if there is a choice,
You go by election, isn't it?
you've got choice men. And also against male preference.
They always lead to that. In a sense that without actively look out there, okay, can we look for a women pastor?
Yeah, we don't do identity sort of thing, diversity,
Yeah.
where we say that we want to have a women so that we balance everything out sort of thing. We don't do that.
Yeah. We've never had an issue rising from the congregation. Because maybe we don't have enough turnover of masters. Different from Pastor Isaac, for example, he's got 7 or 8 masters. Then this issue can arise.
Also, we did object to what is this? Miri, the pastor Miri.
Yeah.
He actually accepted it.
Yeah, that's why we never.
Good question.
Yeah, there's no question, is it? I mean, we recognize her as a pastor, but she was running the Sunday school. When she went over to Melbourne, it's not our pastor, yeah. But we have we've always, in a sense, accepted the role of, women as pastors. I mean, Islam, we have our Miri Pastors Fellowship, and among them is a lady pastor. Who was preaching our church before.
I know. I think generally PBC, I'll just put the scenario forward. I think it's possible that when we are selecting our next senior pastor, and then maybe a generation or how many generations later, some members of the congregation can ask actually, does the Bible actually allow women to be pastors? I mean, it's a possible question asked from the congregation. And congregation can ask the question that, how do we interpret this one? And it is sincerely, because again, we are trying to avoid a heated argument within the church. Meaning that some people will then start accusing people of motivations and so on, which is actually not what anybody is trying to do. So it's possible that we can preempt those discussions by having a very clear understanding about this one, at least from PBC. Or we can just not bother about it, and we can all just go home and say, have a good night, early night. That's
Verse 14, it says, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and transgressed. Right? Now, the issue, is it about a gender issue, or is it about the issue of being deceived, or vulnerability for being deceived?
That argument, I would say, we're doing a discussion, would be okay to say, I do not allow a gullible person to teach. Or a person who is inexperienced, or a person who is immature.
Immaturity would be another passage.
The problem with this passage is that it says woman.
I think Paul is trying to tell us that in verse 14, see, if you let a woman in charge and give you whatever to eat, and the man just take it easy and eat, fall into sin. So you shouldn't let a woman have the authority over men.
Yes, actually, that's actually one of the arguments that we talk about, that men, if given the opportunity, will let the woman run the world.
That's right. The problem is actually actually with the man, you know.
Yeah, it's actually it's Adam who have the problem because he leaves everything to Eve, and he just take this. It's like I will bring I get a glass of pineapple juice and I give it to Goma, and he just suck. Exactly what happened to Adam and Eve. Eve bring the fruit over, have some taste, and he just bite it. Didn't even ask.
Yeah, actually,
That's why.
and we talk about what if, Adam should basically say no or check with God.
Yeah. Oh, what
say
is
no,
it?
cannot.
What is
why
it?
is it? Yes. Where did
But
you
he
get it from?
didn't.
Ah, right.
He didn't.
So he just put it lah.
Yeah.
I would like to propose the how to say the alternate reading of this one. Because if we look at the original language, not to say that reading the Greek or whatever, but it is noted that in this passage, the word woman and man is also the same words used for wife and husband. It's the same exact word. So it can also be read as the women, the wives are supposed to dress themselves accordingly, and then I do not permit a wife to teach or exercise authority over her husband, and etc. etc. I have heard this alternate reading of the translation, and it makes sense if it is about wives not having authority over the men, which then comes back to also the Adam and Eve's problem, which is Eve just give and Adam just took.
That one is a possible explanation. Let's look at Bible Hub, because that one I think is actually allows us to see the different translations and to see what the Bible which one's 11, 12, 12. So Bible Hub is a resource that allows us to see at one go all the different translations. So what Zach say is also legitimate, saying that in the original, women can also be translated as wife, men can also be translated as husband. And since we don't want to go into the text and then look into, because the last time I did that, I think it did not turn out well. So let's lean on the translators of the Bibles thus far, and see whether any other translations allows them. So NIV says woman, not wife. NLT, ESV, Variant, King James, NASB.
If you want to check that, I would rather check the Greek itself.
We can, but what I'm saying over here is not saying that I'm not saying that what you said was wrong. What I'm saying over here is that the translators who may be wrong, most of them agree with this. Now, maybe the translators do this because they have a good thing. They have been so used to translating it that way, therefore they automatically translate it this way. What I'm saying over here is that normally we would go through translations, it would be like this. Because if what Zach said is, I don't want to say Zach because then it makes him maybe invest too much in the position. But if that interpretation, for example, carries weight, the best case would be a 50-50.
Can you go to the top second one? See, I do not let women teach men. See the second one? New Living teach men.
The whole point of arguing that the word woman or man can be and has been translated in other places as wife and husband. That means the translation to wives, if we translate it to, we do not allow wives to teach over or have authority over husbands, it makes it, there's no more debate if it's translated that way, because it is legitimate that it can be translated as wife and husband, though the words that were used.
The only thing is that, and that's legitimate, I want to stress that, is that if we are preaching this from the pulpit, we are asking the congregation to see that the Bible, in this case, the translation, is not accurate, because it is a better way of understanding women over here to be understood as wife.
Or you can teach both. Because I'm looking at the interlinear and checking that the word for women and how it is used in all the other parts of the Bible. And as a lot of times it's also used for women who, whether they are wives or not stated. But then other places clearly stated that Elizabeth, the wife, his wife, and so on and so forth.
There's a risk now that we will go very quickly into technical, where we actually become too deep into the text. But that is, so Zach, as Zach says, that it actually can refer to wife. So the Greek word is gynae, which is gynecologist. And it can refer to all these things, so there is legitimate. And so if someone wants to say that no, it's not true, well, that person is wrong. It's actually that one. But in this case, in order, we have to leave the argument here, because then we would probably want to explore and see whether is it a legitimate, a truly legitimate case of translating it as wife and husband, or are we choosing that translation because it fits better with our understanding or our preference? Do you understand the difference over here? I want it to be a wife because it fits better with what I believe. Or is it actually wife? It's just that I need to shape my own thoughts so that it actually fits in what the Bible actually says. So that is the issue at stake. And then again, at this point, we can say that okay, if this verse is not actually very conclusive, we can look at other verses and see what the other verses actually say, and then we take it as a whole and we see whether we can reach a conclusion.
See, looking at this passage and looking at the possible interpretation, right, of woman with wife, right, challenges us to look further. Yeah. And so that we're not so fixated on this particular passage. So if we look further and everything else comes and say, okay, right, the conclusion seems that a woman, this is the conclusion that a woman exercise of the man cannot achieve. Then, yeah, then we rely on this. So this way is not to exclude things because we don't like it. Actually, it's very flexible.
Any other thoughts? One thing that perhaps just to demonstrate for tonight is that I hope, and this is recorded, I hope that any discussions on topics like this can be as demonstrated by Zach and Pastor Lin and what you guys mentioned, which is, and all of you guys actually truly, which is that trying to understand what the passage actually says. Because I just want to say very clearly that when this discussion comes up, a lot of times the reasons are because of non-biblical ones. So, for example, they will say something like, I mentioned before, but I'll say it again. There's so many women pastors. Other churches also have women pastors. I came to Christ, I actually can tell you right now, I came to Christ because of women pastors. I went to Liu's church, which is in Johor, and then there was a woman pastor preaching, and then she preached. I went to her after the service, I spoke to her, and she actually helped me come to faith. Alright? So, and we have missionaries, we have mothers, we have the historical case, we have different churches, we have personal experience, we have the future, we have what do I tell my daughter? You can be anybody you can want to be, you can be the president, you can be the prime minister, but you just cannot be a pastor. You have all these implications all over the place. Alright? right? So a lot of people can put all these arguments forward, but actually all those arguments actually don't matter. In the sense that if the Bible is clear that women pastors are not allowed, all those reasons actually do not matter at all. And I would also put to anybody that if you have very terrible experience with women pastors, or you were abused by women pastors, you were so every bad reason for not having a woman pastor, from your own personal experience, from what you see from historical, from future, all the bad things that can happen because a woman is pastor, all those things also can be excluded because the Bible actually permits. So your own personal things are actually, in a sense, they may inform, but they cannot determine. So I really hope that the church understands this, because a lot of churches are getting into splits simply because they cannot differentiate between the two. And I really don't want to see, I love my church, I love BBC, and I hope that BBC will learn how to have conversations about differences without resorting to people saying that you're denying my experiences, you're denying this and that. Whereas actually that's not the case. We just want to understand what does the Bible actually say.
From my understanding of this passage, who is actually writing? Is it Paul? Paul is writing to the church to address the problem. The problem is the woman who has overstepped. Insist the men to listen to her. So this point is addressing the woman that some the problems that the women are facing. For example, one of it is respectable apparel, modest of control, things like that. And then he talk about fire. Let's say there's a dispute between man and husband and wife. The woman should be quiet and let the man speak. Sometimes the woman can be very emotional, so sometimes the men become be put down or make quiet because of the woman who speaks loud and so I think that's why Paul is addressing this problem that a woman should be quiet, submissive, not exercise authority over the man. There is a dispute, but there is no dispute. I not see that woman cannot teach or woman cannot be pastor. To me, I can see the way. If there is a dispute, then it says that women should submit and be quiet.
The issue that we're struggling with is if the pastor, because the role of pastor means that it's vested in the pastor or the office of the pastor. So whoever does that, so automatically there is this overriding sense. And if there's any dispute, you go to the one with the authority. The pastor will decide what is the right thing. And it's a very big problem. So this is the issue. So if a woman sits in that position, then she has to exercise her authority. And that would override, for example, the exercise of authority.
Understand that in the practice, we are not like one person authority. Authority is within the members. Members is the one that makes decision. Members is the one that is made authority. Pastor is actually the authority. The members can even hire a pastor.
But this is regarding the learning and teaching.
We like talking about pastor. It is that pastor has authority over the church, over the members. So
that's when class 101 talks about this myth of the members have all the authority, or the pastor doesn't have authority. So all those things actually we deal with this. There is authority expressed in the know the right context. So the members also, for example, because if we talk about members of authority, that's interesting, is it? So we have, and the members we have men and women, right? So it becomes complicated, isn't it? Yeah.
The authority given to the congregation is different from the authority given to the pastors. The authority given to the congregation is they're able to, in this case, recruit or call a pastor. But then when it comes to teaching, we don't allow any single member to come forward. If we say that every member has authority, but at the same time we don't say that every member can come up to teach. The Baptist church doesn't have that understanding. Some churches do, but we don't. So the authority, the power to teach, the authority to teach is actually given to the pastor or whoever the pastor delegates. Right? Even then, the pastor has oversight. The other issue with your interpretation is saying maybe it's a specific case, because that's also another way people discuss this kind of things, which is that Paul is not saying something universal. He's talking about something which is specific to that particular case. The problem again is the for. Because you don't make this argument to say for that specific case, I think.
I mean, at the moment, generally our mindset is to say, all right, it's talking about general. Could it be using, as a specific case, could it be using that Genesis example just as an illustrative for that specific case? We are actually expanding the scope. Okay, now it's like people using the principle of binding for the law, the process, and so forth. They are expanding.
It's something to explore, because oftentimes people say that the tricky part, again, I'm just expressing my own dilemma, so I'm not even being very firm here. I'm saying that I have difficulty accepting women pastors because I am struggling with passages like this. And then when people try to argue that it is a specific case, I find it difficult, but maybe I can review it. People say it's a cultural thing, that during that time women they are more subservient, the men actually have more authority, it's a patriarchy and so on. So therefore it's a cultural thing. But again, the argument is it's from Genesis, it's not saying culture. Or it's not like what Saddam was saying, that maybe it's the education level and so on. I find it very difficult because Paul himself is, okay, I also put it, I often use this technique. If Paul wants to say that he does not allow women to have authority over men, how would he frame it so that it's clearer? And to me, I find it that if I want to make clear that women, you cannot teach men, how to make it? You will say that under every circumstance and so on.
I'm nailing in the coffin.
Because if you demand that Paul actually use in every single circumstance, he never uses that language in any of his letters to describe any of the commands. So therefore, if he doesn't say that, then we say that it is optional, means that you're causing a problem with the other commands as well. The way I think. So again, I'm just expressing my own dilemma. If he insists he needs to say that, he's not saying it anywhere else.
He said that the woman cannot teach, woman cannot be a pastor. Then in the whole world, we see so many ladies pastor, ladies evangelists. That means they're all wrong, or they interpret this verses wrongly, or how?
Yes. Women pastors only start getting ordained in the last 100 years. And second, Martin Luther, when he was 1500, one of the questions that was posed to him is that, are you the only one who asks? Martin Luther was actually pushed very hard by the Pope, by the Roman Catholic. 1,500 years of history, all the books, all the scholars, all the pastors, all the things. And you, Martin Luther, are you saying that you're the only person that is wise? And Martin Luther actually in prison, he struggled with that question because how does he dare to say that? But then he looks at the Bible and he says a famous thing that, and here I stand. And I can do no other. And so yes, if you're asking me the question, everybody else, is it possible that everybody else actually interpreted wrongly? Is it possible that every other church who has done this actually understood wrong? Is it possible that the pastor who ministered to me has actually practiced it wrongly? I would say yes. But it doesn't mean that the grace of God does not continue on through the flaws of the believers of the church. Because Roman Catholics do many good things, right? But if you're saying whether they interpret it wrongly, I can say that it's possible.
Yes, in spite of.
In spite of, yes, in spite of all the things we do wrong, God still is able to make use of us stupid people.
People will, even the people will continue to do wrong if they know that it's wrong, but they continue to do wrong, then they can be saved.
That is correct.
But that's where exactly our dilemma is now. If we know that, if we are clear enough and convicted that Scripture says, all right, no women pastors, then we will say from today onwards, okay, we will not consider. I mean, we respect what other churches do, okay, that's their choice, but we will not hold women to the role. We will not allow women to preach on the pulpit.
Respectfully.
So,
Not denying their gifts, not denying that they're equally created in the image of God. But we're just saying that our convictions don't permit us.
I mean, within the Miri Pastors Fellowship, we have the convictions and we respect each other. So, yeah, if you want to ask, and we want to discuss, we can discuss that. But there are other things that we will not know in terms of convictions and identities.
Yeah. Some families, they don't allow the kids to eat McDonald's. It's
Actually, when I joined this church, I actually have seen women show much better picture than a husband. I see. That's my opinion.
okay, sure, accept.
And yet, they practice submissiveness. One example is authority Evans. Never saw her preach. Always allowed the husband to go out and preach. In my opinion, when she shared with us, when she, did things with the ladies, she's very knowledgeable, but she never, ever go up to the pulpit. Another person I have seen is Jenny Lam.
Wow.
But the husband is Lam.
Oh.
But she also never take the front row. Always allow her husband to go. Because every time they come, they stay with us. So we saw, when I saw how they practice, how they work. And a lot of the things, they have, husband have to discuss with her, and then she will give advice. But she was never in front. Two person really impressive. Two women really impressive. They, in my opinion, I was young then, right? They're very knowledgeable. And yet, they practice the submissiveness of this passage. And I really admire them.
See, when you share that, I think it resonates with me actually. Because I think possibly that's what God intended. As the women and the husband are to demonstrate God's design in the roles. And I would say it's not easy for the woman to submit when the woman knows clearly that she is more gifted.
But you see, behind the scene, they're helping each other.
Correct.
But not in the front.
And
Not in the
And I see that even in the church, there are some, I would say, also think that they know better than the pastor. They are more experienced than the pastor. They can do all sorts of things than the pastor. But the thing is that you are not the pastor. So therefore you must submit. I think that's something that the church also needs to learn. You cannot just override simply because you you think you're more talented and so on. I think a lot of times the church has not understood again the role, and so I think it all comes together, and the kids sometimes think they're smarter than the teachers. Too knowledgeable because they have the internet and everything as well. But regardless of whether you know more or not, you need to submit to your teacher. So I think it's all related. Children and the parents, wives and the husband, master and your slaves, and submit to your leaders. That's the way I see it. The Bible actually keeps pushing all these things, submit, and then always saying that as submitting to the Lord. Because it's so hard for us to submit. And so every time we see people submitting well, for the Christian, it's like, wow, no grumbling, no complaining, no that one, it's just submitting, godly submission. That's why I also struggle with this.
I struggle when I study the Ephesians, when they talk about, why you have to be submissive.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to say the word. I said, how can I submit? How can I submit? Wow, there was a big argument from my side.
The famous one.
I get that reaction also in pre-marriage counseling. No way.
I said, no way, how can I submit? If he's wrong, he's wrong.
Yeah, it's...
But then I've seen this too, and it really a good lesson for me. Submissiveness, humble. Is it humility? It's not easy to humble oneself before.
But submission to the person rightfully given the authority, let's say pastor of church. So everyone, not just women, not just children, everyone in the church is supposed to submit to the pastor.
Yes.
Not just the women, not just the children.
That's correct.
So everyone, so including all the men. So the question should be more about, if we have a woman pastor, should the man also submit to her?
Should.
So that the question is, should the woman be in that position to begin with? It's not about who should be submitting to who. So it's who is a woman. Should a woman be a pastor of a church in the beginning to start with?
I thought that was a question.
Then we are all supposed to submit regardless of who is the pastor, who is this one. So that's the question. But submission, husband and wife, the husband is this one, no one debates this one. Husband is the head of the house, with wives submit to your husband, not just any husband.
This is what Pastor Lim said also just now. He's saying that the question is, as soon as the woman has a pastor, she has authority already. There is no if and buts really. She will have authority.
Yeah. I think Paul writes to prevent that. That dilemma the church will face. When everything is good, no problem. Yeah. But you see, what plays out is a lot of times during the crisis, the economy shut down. Everything falls onto actually a lot falls onto my shoulder as a pastor.
Yeah.
How to go and where to go. No discussion, So we have to be very clear and then direct. Okay, so that time I value what Paul said in terms of submitting to the authority. Because it happens in crisis. When everything is good, everybody has joy. But when crisis hits, that's when they're very
And we want to thank God that COVID did not split the church. Because there were again two parties with very strong opinions about how to respond to COVID. I want to thank God that God steered the church BBC well. And I think I think that's a very good point. Is there anything else that you want to address? I want to close really this session. We have not concluded anything, but we just want to demonstrate, give a taste of the discussion, and hopefully we can say that we can discuss this in a way that doesn't accuse people of bad motives. which again I think is such a common incident within the church itself. And also there's an element of pride oftentimes, because one may have a position for too long a time, whichever way, and therefore are not willing to even consider. So I'm just hoping that if this type of discussions do occur, that PBC can demonstrate true humility and submit to one another, actually. Submit to one another.
Actually, that's a good point. And when we talk about something to the leaders, the first thing leaders must always remember is that we are servants.
Yes.
So we have this servant attitude and leadership on the welfare, so that the members can easily submit, because they know that we have the welfare when we make decisions. So I look at this point, I'm glad for the discussion, because one is the issue of crisis, secondly the issue of discernment, and also in servant. So the bigger thing here is to be I think to deal with these things and ask ourselves, can a woman, certainly we have to can a woman deal with this things, or is it just restricted only to men? Men and women deal with this.
Before I close, any questions from Amanda? If Amanda has been able to follow the conversation, sorry if you're not able to.
Our talking seems to keep disconnecting from the so I guess it came up.
But mine? But you are able to connect?
Yeah, I mean I saw him keep going in and out, in and out.
Maybe his side. Maybe first time I'm using hotspot, maybe it's not. But again, Amanda, maybe are you there? Not there? Never mind, no worries. But any questions? Just to give you space and time. Oh, she got a message. Oh, yes. No questions so far. Okay, good. So, possibly because she has no plan to be a pastor.
Is it a prophecy? What change timing?
Maybe a pastor's wife.
You never know, right?
Just a visit to the pastor.
Yeah.
And to the husband.
Wow, this is a double blow. Husband already suffered, and then
Pastor again.
And then Amanda says, "Just my father also pastor."
Okay, so we end by embarrassing Amanda, which is a good way to end.
Can always cut earlier.
All right, can Pastor Lin, can you please close the session?
Stop the share. Stop the share.
thank you again, everyone, for participating in the healthy discussion. I think if we can, as a church, really continue to engage this, will be healthier. Doesn't mean that we are able to answer all the questions on this side of our life. So I believe that when we reach heaven, there are going to be long queues. Long queues. So let's pray. Father, thank you again for the privilege and the time that you've given to us to explore deeper the matters of our faith and the matters of our convictions. We do pray that this will open doors for us to go to a deeper study of your word, and in doing so develop our clear conviction. But with the grace of God, allow us to change where we need, to repent if we need to, but also to carry on if we are on the right track, as your word determines. So the bottom line, though, help us to be obedient to you in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you, everyone.